Qigong is more than just a physical practice. And even the physical practice itself goes beyond the movements. So Oliver Reichen asked himself, what do I actually use my practice for? With the help of the creation spiral, he turns his vision into creation and goes further by adding what we often forget, to celebrate. Let us learn from his experience. My name is Thorsten Lüdecke, and this is the Wisdom Qigong Podcast. So hello everyone, welcome to our podcast episode today. I've got Olivier Reichen with me, and all the Dutch listeners, please excuse my lousy Dutch pronunciation. Olivier contacted me some time ago because he's an illustrator, and he contacted me and said, look, I've done some illustrations which actually showcases all the positions and the movements of the Lift Chi Up. And I'm working on more exercises, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. And Olivier, maybe you show us just quickly the latest you're working on so people get an idea what we are doing here. And apologies to the podcast listeners who are not on YouTube. You will just have to meditate for a second while we show you guys the picture here. So this is kind of what to expect. And I think what you've produced so far is the Lift Chi Up, and you're now working on the 3 centers merge, right?
Yeah, that was a 3 center merge which I showed, which was just in sketch form, and the Lift Chi Up is like a whole A3 thing which you can print out.
Right. And we are, I'm mentioning it because we are putting your link in the show notes. So anyone who's interested to get this drawing, he can get in touch through the link. And I think you charge a little bit of money. It's like, how much are you charging for that?
Yeah, so there's 2 options, but we can. It's €6, and if you go through the Gumroad, then comes American VAT comes on top of that, another €1.30 or something like this.
So it's not breaking the bank, but it's something fun to have and something very helpful, because we all know that visualization helps. And not just when it comes to doing the exercise correctly, but in other aspects as well when it comes to Qineng Qigong, because we do visualize our health, we do visualize our goals. And that takes me to something that we are going to start off the conversation today. Now, you mentioned that in your training, you often focus on something which you call the spiral of creation, right?
Yeah, we sometimes do this. It's something which it's a book which I read a long time ago, and it's called The Creation Spiral, and it's written by the Dutch. He was a physician, I think, or a physics person, how you call it. He wrote this in the 80s or something, and I've been using it in different times of my life, basically for you to wish for something and how can you make it come true. And he describes the process, how it usually goes from a wish into it becoming reality. And he uses this process also to help you to maybe realize your own wishes, or to be aware of these steps. Yeah.
And how does it feed into Qineng Qigong? How do you use it in your trainings and in when you give workshops?
Yeah, so we did this in our Beyond Practice workshop with John Miller and Anke Ruerkamp. We did it, and at that time it was very much also it's basically this awareness, and we use it in such a way that's why it's also called Beyond Practice. We were saying like it's more than practice. You also what do you use your practice for? And so you can also have the idea of something you really want, and how can you get there. It could also be like your health, or it could also be feeling independent, or there could be like personal development wishes. So I always have in my practice, I have the short-term wishes or the short-term vision, but also the long-term vision. So like I might be working on developing myself for the next 5 years, and then I have a vision of what I could achieve. And then you visualize yourself already in in this situation that you already got there, and you try and feel what this does for you when you already say, hey, I'm already there. How does it feel? What is it? And this information you take in, like you make it your good information, which goes to all your cells together with the chi. So the chi is like your boat, and you pack things to it to make it to give it extra information which you want for your body, for your life. Yeah.
Now, this is something that we know from Jineng Qigong, obviously, because we are working with the level of information in order to feed the chi field with the right information of health, of well-being, of all organs are working normal and all of that. So is there anything in this creation spiral that is adding to it, or are you basically using the same ideas, the same mechanism there? Or did I forgot his name now, did he discover something to add to it?
Well, there is one mistake which we tend to make. And for some people, it's maybe very obvious, but maybe it's actually for us all very obvious, but we don't do it. And this is when we achieve our situation, when we actually get there, we get our result, and we then forget to celebrate. We are already in our next wish, or we're in the other project which is going, or no, but this is the celebration, the full acceptance and enjoyment of that you've got what you are wishing for. This is a part we forget, and we forget the part that we then go into relaxation. So like we do nothing for a while and just let it become quiet again, and then maybe when you're in the shower, sometime the next wish might come. But so we tend to rush, and I think this is the West, and also the pressure which is on people, and we're always moving. And if things go down slow, we get a little bit nervous maybe, and we forget to enjoy that. Yeah, this. So they call this basically the last quarter of your circle, and we tend to skip it, which is a shame. So that's really something which we could do more. Yeah.
I think it's not only a shame, I think it also might sabotage your efforts eventually. And I'd like to take both steps here. When you talk about celebration as such is wonderful, but for me, that includes also acknowledgement. So that I acknowledge actually what I have done here has worked. I've visualized something, I've put the right information into the chi field, and I do get the result. Now, if I don't acknowledge that, it means I'm taking away my power for the next time I'm doing the same thing. Now, I've got many people in Jineng Qigong world that had incredible successes. They healed this, they healed that, and then when there's something serious comes up, they kind of tend to forget. They forget that it has already worked for them in the past, and they're looking at the new challenge, and they, for whatever reason, they think, oh well, Qigong can't help. And then you look at them and say, but you know for yourself, you have your own experience of how the chi field has worked before you. You have your own results that you have created. So how comes you now stop practicing? How comes you now don't implement what you already know? So I think for me, the celebration has the celebration aspect, but it also has a reminder for me to say, yes, it worked. And let me remember that for all of my life, because when the next challenge comes up or the next goal comes up, I can use it again. And I know it works. How do I know it? Because it's worked for me in the past. So I think this is an important thing, because it's actually crazy. And maybe many of our listeners have people in their environment, or it's themselves, that when they look back at their Qigong history, they have many examples where it has worked perfectly well. And now they might face a challenge and they don't draw the right conclusion and say, well, if it has worked then, it should work now as well. So I think this is why for me this is so important, to acknowledge when it works and to remember it and store it in your mind.
Yeah, and part of this celebration is, of course, also thanking the people who supported you, thanking yourself. Yeah, maybe is your thankfulness is maybe the idea that you yeah, this was an interesting point I once discussed with somebody, one of the Chinese teachers. I said, why do you not think after your practice? And he said, well, I don't need to think something what I am. When I'm connected, I'm so much part of everything. I don't need to say thinking is like showing that you're not part of something.
Right.
You're still, it's like another part. But if you are all connected, it's basically one. So you can't think, yeah, it's like there's no transfer because you're all one. But also this awareness can still be good to have. Yeah.
We have a way you can discover Qigong. So at the Chineng Qigong Students Hub, we know that understanding Qigong is very important. And also that Chineng Qigong in itself has various nuances that people can't easily comprehend. So we've approached it in the style of a video game. On this page, Discover Qigong, you can select your character. So you can either be a beginner, a practitioner, or a holistic healer or self-healer. And you click on your character and it takes you to these different sections. In these sections, you can explore the nuances. And when you click on a card, all of the resources pop up, and we've made it really fun, and not many people know about it. So if you are interested, have a look and discover Qigong.
Yes. I mean, the mindset of gratitude here, I think, is important because even though we are one, we know that in everyday life we don't go through life with that mindset. So I think there are many people that have contributed to that success. Your teachers, fellow students, your family, and yourself. So I think the appreciation makes total sense. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean we are discarding the idea of oneness. I get what your teacher was telling you there, but then again, we are also living as three-dimensional beings here on this earth, trying to make our way, and being grateful is part of that humanity. So I think it's perfectly fine to go into that gratefulness as well.
Yeah, and it's also something which we, speaking personally, I find it a difficult theme, thankfulness, being grateful also, because it's for many things you take for granted. And for me, like, it also feels like if 10 people have already thanked somebody for something, then why should I also make this effort once more? Like it doesn't really kick in properly or something. So I find it sometimes, but still, I'm very much aware that it's important, and find a way to go about this part of the cycle or of life, whatever. Yeah.
Thanking can happen internally. I also know these WhatsApp group, when you have 50 students, somebody says something intelligent and 49 sent another message to thank them. That's not what I mean. I mean, we can be grateful and thankful internally and express it internally without necessarily having to type another message and a smiley. So it's more the mindset that you're bringing, and not so much the action that follows on a tool like WhatsApp, for example.
Yeah. And then you come back to the teacher again. Also, it says, okay, you can be thankful from your inside. Yes. Yeah.
Now, the other aspect you brought in next to when I asked you, what does this creation spiral basically add to our way of thinking and doing Chineng Qigong? You said celebration is one aspect, and the other one you brought up is to take a break and to just go back a little, take yourself back a little bit, and enjoy what you have achieved without necessarily going straight into the next vision, straight into the next goal. And I think this is something also very important, because we tend to forget that the whole idea of Chineng Qigong is the concept of opening, closing. So it's not just one movement. So, and if I take this literally, if I do one vision after another, I'm basically opening, and I'm never taking the time, to sit back and to close. So the flow of energy, can't work properly if once I have achieved one thing, I'm automatically going to the next one. So the time of resting and of enjoying and of just staying still and acknowledging what I have achieved now before I move into the next vision, I think makes total sense in terms of Jin Qigong. Now, your author might express that a little different, but I think it's a basic concept of what we're doing here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah. It's also, if you look at the creation, like sometimes you will are forced to make up something and get new ideas or something, and you find that they are not really very good or something. And then, you may notice also that when you are quiet again, or when you try not to think, or then maybe the best ideas come. You can also say it's an essential step for the beginning of a new creation. Like if you're running all the time, it's going to be more difficult to get a good idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I get that. And only in the stillness, there's an opportunity for new things to develop. If I'm loud and busy and running, as you say, the chances that I come up with something of value are obviously very low, right?
Yeah. Or you have to be in a real flow, and then things just go one into the other. But that usually doesn't also last forever.
So with regards to your how you approach Jin Qigong, so I can see you put quite a bit of emphasis on the visualizations, and at the same time, you're making an effort to make all these drawings, and which are the physical movements and the physical postures. So how would you best describe how do these two things come together, and how would you describe your style of training then?
Yeah, that's quite a hard one, because like if I would say, the posture is everything, that's not true. And if you say the visualization is everything, then you'd sort of, not respect the precise movement so much. The people who train with me, or the way I train them is more like first get the feeling of relaxation and being able to come along. We do the lift you up straight away after warming up and chi field, of course, but we do the lift you up, and then we notice that the first time it's hard because they are looking at me and they're trying to see what's happening. But actually the second time they do it, they're already having this experience of being connected or being in a sort of flow. And this is the first experience that I share. Also, of course, with Qi or La Qi. But so to give them these first experiences, and then furthermore, we then go into trying to get the more out of the movement.
Right.
But for some people, it's just not so relevant if you practice one time in the week to get the movement correct, because they use it as a relaxation practice one time in the week, and it works for them. So they go chilled out, they leave the room. But of course, we're always trying to give a little bit of, hey, there's a bit more than that. Try this, or try a daily practice. And some people might do it for 2 years, just doing one practice a week, and then all of a sudden they say, okay, but now I need to make my next step. I'm ready for my next step. For some people, they can go straight away into, I want to learn to lift you up off by heart. Let's do it 10 days. In 10 days, I can learn to lift you up by heart. I don't need your poster anymore, but it could be nice, So that's the first sort of it's a sort of discrepancy, or how you call it. There's a bit of tension between the one. Like it's not just visualization, and it's not just movement. Yeah, and the other aspect of visualization, which I find sometimes difficult, is that you see that if you give too much, like I call it color, like if you make the visualizations too descriptive, or you are talking all the time, or so, I find it myself very difficult to take part in such a session, because I'm forced to go along into somebody else's visualization, and it doesn't work for me because I say, oh, what should I do? And then I'm busy. Am I doing it correct? Instead of focusing on myself. So I find the visualization is more like a suggestion, and sometimes the suggestions are very powerful. Like I really love the you're like one water drop in an ocean, like you merge, and
Right.
like this is, and at the right is when you say it at the right moment when people are relaxed. I think it can really help them to that's nice. But also these examples for myself, they would also maybe lose their intensity if I use them every week. Then it wouldn't work anymore. For myself, not, and I think for my students also not. So these visualizations, you're always looking for, okay, what comes up. Sometimes something comes up from yourself, and in this way, I find that the verbalization of what you are experiencing yourself as a suggestion to others to help them. Maybe this works for you as well. So it's like always an invitation to see, this is, but if you have to work, you have to always say, you could maybe do this, or you could maybe do that. Yeah, then that's also too tedious. So yeah, but indeed, it is always an invitation to go along. Some people might just say, okay, I'm doing my own thing, and I have my own visualizations, and they work for me, and yeah, that's also fine. Yeah.
Yeah, from my experience, a good meditation is basically taking me into a particular state. And from there on, I might just listen to what is being said kind of in the background, but I'm on my own journey while I'm doing it. Yeah. And I think that is kind of what you're suggesting, because one metaphor might work perfectly well for one person and not so well for another. And if I have to start with my mind kicking in, trying to visualize a certain situation, then the purpose of the whole visualization is already gone. So I like that, and I think we need to encourage the practitioners when they do these visualizations and these meditations to give themselves complete freedom, because whatever comes up for them is what is important, and it's not so much the ideas or the script of the teacher or whoever reads
but it's like I can say to you, okay, imagine your favorite landscape. I can say that. Huh?
Yes.
Done a lot, but you can also say, what do you need right now to relax? What landscape do you need? It's the same, more or less the same words, but it's like first of all, it's in a question, and they ask you straight away, and then you say, okay, I'd really love now to have this, and it's in puff, you're there straight away. So I find this fascinating, and I'm not saying that I have total control, but I find it fascinating, and I'm not always using the right words, but I know it's important. Yeah. So the suggestions to help you into the visualization. Yeah.
Yes, and if you're asking questions like this, it obviously opens up very different doors for every person, and whatever door they open up is fine and works well, right?
Yeah.
So if I summarize the creation spiral, because that's where we started, it is these three aspects. You've got the visualization, where you put yourself into the situation as if you were already there, and you do this with all your senses and in the most relaxed state. And then once you have achieved it, you go into the celebration, and after the celebration, you go into the pause, or I don't know what the word is, the correct word is there.
The pause or the relaxation. Yeah, but there's 12 steps altogether. So
Right.
So we just focused on the last three because that's where it often goes wrong. And the other steps are, it's like you have a wish, you let it strengthen with you, like it recurs and it comes back all the time. Then at one stage you start talking about it to people, and people might offset you because they say, well, that can't be done. That's ridiculous or something. So then you're talking to the right, not talking to the right people. Sometimes you are talking to the right people because it can sharpen your idea. But if it kills the idea straight away, that would be a shame. So you're always looking for the right moment to come out with your idea and to be encouraged. And sometimes instead of being discouraged, it should sharpen your idea further. Yeah, well, and then at one stage you start really researching. So, okay, people find it good. I get some good feedback, but now I need to get very selective feedback or, and networking. And then at one stage you decide, okay, go, no go. And then comes the active part where the Qigong part would be maybe, okay, I have to practice this daily, keep at it. And there's very nice crossovers, like you believe in your idea and the persistence needed to carry it out, like they'll be opposite. And so there's many opposites which are very strong. So yeah, it's well thought through, basically. Yeah, we could also maybe put a link in if I can find an English session or yeah.
Yes, please. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to read up on it after our conversation for those that feel okay, that could be something for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's great how you integrate that because everything you're saying here works perfectly within Qin and Qigong, and it's another angle that people can take, because one of the things that I've learned over the years is that each of us has their very own angle how to get access to the wisdom of Qin and Qigong, and there's just so many ways to get. In Germany we have an expression says "wenn der Groschen fällt," so which means something like the moment you get it, right? You moment you totally get something, and that might be a different path for everyone. So I think it's a great way how you're introducing this concept into your training, and I'm glad we had this conversation, and I'm also very happy to put the link in the show notes. And I think that brings me to the end, where I would like to thank you for your time here. Let me just try with my pronunciation one more time, Olivier, and getting better. And good luck with the drawings. I think it looks beautiful what you've done there for the Lift Chi Up and working on for the 3 centers merge. And hopefully it will help many people to understand the movements, to understand the postures. And if nothing else, it's a beautiful piece of art that would fit beautifully in your bedroom, so that you can be constantly reminded of how beautiful the practice is. And that maybe it's time to do another Lift You Up today. And so thank you very much for your time, Olivier. And I hope to chat again very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We trust you enjoyed this conversation, and we invite you to subscribe to our podcast so we can stay in touch and notify you of future episodes. We will end today's episode with the 8 verses meditation performed by Qin and Qigong teacher Katrin Hendricks. Enjoy. To get your free ebook on the 8 Verses meditation, please check the show notes below.